Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk, and we're going to start the other stream right now and get the show on the road. There's so much to cover. Here we go. One second, one quick thing. All right. Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. And as always, with Trump in the White House, MAGA's got a lot to talk about because this is Christmas each and every day with this second and non-consecutive term of our favorite president, our greatest president, Donald Trump. And I'm going to go through what President Trump said in regards to Obama in just a few minutes and all this presidential immunity stuff and a whole bunch more, and take your calls, all right? And if you're watching live, you can call me toll-free, 888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are listening. So it's been 10 years, right? 10 years of President Trump. And these fools on the left, along with the Bush never-Trumper Republicans, they're always trying to get Trump. And they have this thing going on all the time that, okay, if we just do this one more thing, we'll get him. And they've been trying to get him for 10 years. I'm not going to go through a list. You guys know, you've lived through it just like the rest of America. And no matter what it is they try, no matter what stunt they pull, no matter what political technique or lawfare right out of the Acme handbook they use, Trump, like the Roadrunner, always wins. So a week ago, we got the beginnings of a very long list of documents from Tulsi Gabbard, who is truly probably the one nonpartisan person in America today in a high position of power in the government, right? I mean, she really is. She's a lifelong Democrat. Now she's an independent, and she's standing up for what's right, which is the Trump agenda. But she's not a Republican. Remember that. She's not a Republican. She is an independent. Unless she's changed, and I missed it, she became an independent. And these documents that she released were very, very well hidden by the deep state. And that is the entire coup that was ordered and organized by President Obama. He ordered Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Susan Rice was in on this, Joe Biden was in on this, and others. Loretta Lynch, who was the Attorney General for Obama at the time. And they put in place this coup, which I'm not going to go through the details of it. I've been talking about it for a week. So if you're not familiar with everything, go back through my program the last week, and I detail it a lot. So I'm not going to detail everything now, just because. And then President Trump, he's heading off to his, yesterday, he's flying off to Scotland. By the way, this is the Brian Craig Show. If you're just wondering, if you're new, where MAGA comes to talk, make sure you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're tuned in on. So before the president gets on the plane, he has a little brief press conference in front of the White House with a sunglass-wearing Caroline Leavitt, and they talk about this presidential immunity. Let me share this with you because he said something they're all excited about on the left, but then he said something else they really kind of want to ignore. Yeah. Okay, now this is something that liberals have been hoping for all week, and now the president, Donald Trump, has confirmed it. And it's unfortunate, but President Trump has said that President Obama has immunity from his coup. And I can live with that, and I'll tell you why. And after I do, I'll take a break, and then I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, okay? At 888-465-2631. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll get to the calls as the show goes on. So I can live with Obama having immunity. Now, a lot of people are going to be upset about this week, and I get it. But for the most part, I only get angry and upset if this was a losing proposition here. But actually, this is exactly what President Trump wanted to happen, what he's doing. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in just a moment. But there's going to be a lot of fake MAGA. You'll probably hear from some of them calling me over the next week. There's going to be a lot of fake MAGA who are going to be outraged that Obama has immunity. They're liberals, they're Democrats. There's seminar callers from the DNC pretending to be conservative, pretending to be MAGA, pretending to be Republican, to try to, cause a MAGA civil war. But President Trump has said that Obama has immunity. But then he says those around him do not. Those around him do not. That's awesome. Because the reason I can live with this is because it'll get them off our favorite president's back when he leaves office, President Trump. But also this, draining the swamp. The problem that we have when it comes to the swamp and the lawfare against President Trump really is not the president's. One thing we've learned about the great President Trump is he's the first, in our lifetime, the first working president. Does that make sense to you? He's the first working president. All the other presidents, in particular Obama, was probably the worst offender of this. But the other presidents pretty much are spokesmodels, figureheads. They're like the Queen or King of England, doing royal waves. And remember all those images of Obama with an empty desk in the Oval Office with his feet up on it and everything else? They don't do much. Everything is handled by the deep state, the administrative state, or the permanent Washington class, whatever name you want to put on them. They're the ones that are responsible for all this stuff, all right? They're the ones responsible for all of it. The ones we really want to get are not the past presidents, because we want them to lay off of President Trump. What we want is to break the deep state. I mean, look, they got President Trump impeached. Vindman, deep state. Turned President Trump in over the Ukrainian Zelensky call to the Inspector General, got him impeached. Mueller, deep state. Comey, deep state. Brennan, deep state. All these people, deep state. And they run everything. These presidents, one of the reasons there was such a panic over Trump, there were many reasons. I'll talk about Obama's reasons in a bit. But the rest of these people, the Brennan types, the Comey types, their panic over Donald Trump was that he was independent. They didn't have anything on him. They didn't control him. They didn't own him through donors. None of that stuff. And he was actually going to be running the country as the chief executive. They haven't had that before, or at least not in a long, long time. So one of President Trump's biggest campaign promises that's mentioned a lot, but we don't really think about it too much because there's so much going on. When it comes to draining the swamp, it's a big swamp, but the main thing about draining the swamp that's got to be accomplished is dethroning the deep state from their power and control over our government, over our leaders, over our Congress, over our Supreme Court, over our presidents. So when President Trump says Obama has immunity, I can live with that. By the way, we have no choice but to live with that. That's the way it is. I will always side and follow and agree with President Trump. He knows what's best. But he goes on to say, but the people around him don't have immunity. See, if you put Brennan in jail, who's lied to Congress multiple times, that alone could get him in prison. That alone. But you look at the things that the people around Obama did, highly criminal, no immunity. Some of them will, many of them can, some of them will go to prison. And, I just tripped. I tripped on my green screen behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, you might have seen me stumble a little bit there. So if you get these very high-level deep state people arrested, and all of a sudden they become convicted felons, what does that do long-term? Well, long-term, it makes others in future administrations who hold those jobs, who are the new deep state 5-10 years from now, it stops them from doing what Brennan and Comey and Clapper and the others did, because they don't want to go to jail. See, prison is a deterrent. People don't want to go to prison unless they're psychos, okay? So getting Clapper, getting Brennan, getting Comey, and some of these others around them, even people that are beneath them on their staffs, those people going to prison is draining the swamp more so than getting Obama and not getting them. Does that make sense to you? Now, a lot of liberals, a lot of Democrats who are going to pretend to be MAGA, a lot of fake MAGA that I'll hear from for weeks on this, they'll tell you, oh, we lost, we need to get Obama, because they're always spinning. They're like propagandists. And if you think about it, you know, Obama was the ringleader, and he did this for some reasons that I mentioned on yesterday's program that I'll get into a little bit later today, perhaps, because I've got a lot to cover. But long-term, the Brennans, the Comeys, and the Clappers, and Clapper seems terrified, and some of these, McCabe is another one who seems terrified. Getting these guys is more swamp draining than getting Obama and not getting them. And I think that makes sense to more reasonable, thoughtful people. Now, I know in the immediate, people want immediate satisfaction. They want Obama behind bars. They want Hillary behind bars. That's okay. I mean, I'm not saying that Obama shouldn't go to prison. He should for what he did. What he did was god-awful and bad and evil. But for the long-term effect, it's better for Brennan, Comey, and Clapper types to get locked up than Obama. And another thing, and this is a very important thing to consider with all of this, no one wants to put handcuffs, prosecute, and send to jail the first black president of the United States. And I know some people say he's not black. He's black, okay? A lot of people say that. You know, no one really, what is the imaging of that? You know, who wants to be in America's history books forever and ever, putting in prison the first black president of the United States? There are not a lot of people that want that image. And just even if Obama did not have immunity, and President Trump says he has immunity. So if President Trump says Obama has immunity from his god-awful crimes, he's got it. But if you think about it, what would happen? What would happen in this country if the first black president of the United States was arrested and charged with treason and put on trial? It would cause racial divisions and issues and things in this country that we have not seen since the 1960s. It would be like the LA riots nationwide, which is really what the Democrats want. Don't you understand that? You know, I saw a poll today that said the Democrats' approval rating is at 19%. If they started nationwide race riots because the first black president of the United States was arrested, charged, and was on trial, that number would go up. That would be a hope for them to get their party back. These deep state leaders, the Brennan types, nobody cares about them. So you don't have to worry about things like that with those guys. So, I mean, you got to think about these things. We have no control over this presidential immunity. President Trump said that he's got immunity, so he's got immunity. And also, there's another benefit to that. That means that they're going to lay off our great president with prosecutions in the future. President Trump, I know we got the Supreme Court ruling, but he is making really kind of like a legal precedent has just been made with this, which gives him protections as well. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on all of this. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. Now, I reformatted my podcast a few weeks back. I now do my podcast live on YouTube. I live stream on my YouTube channel, Brian Craig Show on YouTube. And I take live calls during the live stream on YouTube. And then, of course, I upload it. It's always on YouTube, but I upload the Brian Craig Show podcast is available on all podcast platforms. If there's a podcast platform, this program is on it, and I upload it there. So if you want to call in on the program, you got to follow me on YouTube, Brian Craig Show on YouTube, and catch me live. So, in the long term, that's it. Whoever were to arrest, if Obama got arrested for treason, whoever arrested him, whoever prosecuted him, and there'd be courtroom photographs and artwork and all of this, would be in America's history books forever, right next to the pictures of the segregationist. You understand that, right? It's true. The Republican Party, under the leadership of our favorite president, Donald Trump, we have more diversity in this Republican Party than there has ever been in any party. It would do so much damage to that in the country in ways that are true. You just want to, some people may say, well, I don't care, I want justice. Well, I'm sorry you're not getting exactly what you want. Now, if you're on hold, hang in there. I'm going to take our first break. We'll come back, take some calls. I got a lot to cover too, but we will take calls on this. My name is Brian Craig. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. Don't go anywhere. Our number toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. We'll be right back. Yeah, no problem. No problem, of course. No problem. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep, no problem. All right, we're back. I'm Brian Craig, and we'll take some calls, but I want to try to keep it to what I talked about in the first segment, guys, and I do have a lot more to cover. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, good Saturday morning to you, my friend.
Hey, Richie.
It's Richie.
Hey, Richie.
I agree with President Trump, and I agree with you, okay, with not going after a former president for acts that he does while he's in the White House at that time, because presidents have to make split decisions, and they can't have that hanging over their head, even though we might think it's terribly corrupt. But here's where this goes off the rails a little bit. I watched John Solomon on Hannity last night. Did you see him?
I saw some of it, yeah.
You know what he said? He said that this week, by the end of the week, and I believe what he says is gospel because it's always been right. They're gonna link what they went after President Trump when they invaded his Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach. They were looking for something that linked all this together.
What they were, I've been telling you guys about this since it happened. They were looking. They thought in Trump's safe he had a binder with all these documents that Tulsi released on the Obama coup. That's what they were looking for. That's why they brought the safe cracker. I told you guys that when it break-in first happened.
Now that's where I differ with Obama. Okay, there've been and it has to do with this pen too. It's all together. This signing all these pardons and everything. Okay, I don't think that Biden was capable of giving a pardon to anybody. He was like in La La Land. You don't see that much.
Richie, but Richie, we got to be honest, okay, about this. If you arrested, charged, and put on trial the first black president, we would have race riots from sea to shining sea. And
I don't think that should intimidate.
That shouldn't intimidate. Well, it's easy for you to say, living in your comfortable bedroom community here in Florida, where there are no black people to have race riots. Okay, but it would cause almost like a civil war like situation. It would be so bad that we don't even want to think about it.
I think you have enough black people in this country. I think we're selling them a little short when they see the writing on the wall. Here's the thing that I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say to you. I believe that with the pen, I believe Barack Obama's been running this government ever since he stepped out of the White House.
Yes.
You say there's not influence. You say there's not a big influence. I think he's the main influence.
Yeah.
And I think, he's lazy, but he set
Richie, President Trump was very clear. He says Obama has immunity, so that's it. Trump said it. The court said it.
Immunity only for when he's in the White House.
Well, okay, I understand, but it's going to carry on to his whole life. And the other thing though, the other thing President Trump said that people around him don't. So if these Brennan types get locked up, he's not going to have any minions to do anything with.
Well, may I give you my opinion on that? I think we see that the judges in this country, all the are activist judges that could care less about the Constitution and will go soft on these guys. I believe they're going to go to jail, but not for a long time. I think they'll go to jail for short periods, and they'll get.
What's a short period? What, like three in federal courts? You have to do 80% of your time.
No more than a year.
For regular people, a year is like 20.
No more, I said. Some of them will get like Bannon got.
Yeah.
And Navarro.
And some of them, when the Democrats are back, they may get pardons, but. Listen, you got to deal with what reality, not your fantasy.
I do.
And when President Trump says Obama has immunity, it's settled. I mean, you can't, he said it and that's it.
He made it clear. It's immunity and the Supreme Court made it clear, Brian, it's only while you're in the office. If you start committing crimes after you get out, you don't have any immunity. And I believe he's linked to
all the documents. No one is going to arrest the first black president. Who wants to be in the history books forever, for centuries, next to the segregationist and the slave owners? Come on, nobody wants to be that. Nobody wants to arrest and prosecute the first black president. Let's be serious. You might, but you're not.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm telling you.
I don't want to argue about it, but I don't want to argue about it. If he goes out and robs a bank tomorrow, what are you going to tell me? He's the black president. We can't arrest him.
I'm talking about what happened. If no one is him being black gives him such protection. He, on top of being a Democrat, but being black gives him so much protection. You know what I'm saying? It's true.
How about the? But here's the deal. How about if he has been running this country behind the scenes, and then we've had an open border that's destroyed our country over and it's still going on with these.
I understand, but the documents we have are about this thing. Hey, Rich, I appreciate the call. Talk to you on the weekend.
Have a good one.
All right, take care. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take some more of these calls. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once, twice, I can hear them. I'll put them on hold. We'll go back to them. They put the phone down. Maybe they had to go to the restroom. We'll find out. I'll go back to them. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how you doing, Brian? This is Angela Santonio.
Hey.
And one thing I got to tell you, you're wrong, man. You're 100% wrong. We wouldn't give a damn about Hussein Obama. We wouldn't give a damn because he was president. There's no more. Are we tricked any longer? No more. We're not on that page right there no more. And I'm black and Cuban. Man, we would not give a damn if that man went to jail, what he did and everything he did to Trump. If it came out that he did it, we would not. The only ones you would catch out there is those dumbasses on public aid and those cowards that they pay. But we would not be out there, man. We got too many problems to worry about, too many things to fix in our race to be worrying about that jackass homosexual.
Well, if you remember just a few short weeks ago, we just had the Battle of Los Angeles. And look at how bad that was. That would be America's blue cities would all be like that if the first black president was arrested. Come on, you know that. Come on.
Brian, I understand that, really I do. But man, nobody's on that page. Too many people are trying to move forward and move up. They're not going to go
but
down
see,
that
the
road.
Democrat. Okay, listen. The Democrat Party's latest poll, their approval rating is 19%. That's the Democrat. That's a lower approval rating than the Democrats had when they were the Confederate States of America. Okay, it's pretty low. So and you saw that Soros' son poured like $25 million into Zohan's campaign in New York City. Okay, if the first black president were arrested and charged with treason, the Democrats and the Soroses and all these people would pour millions of dollars and paid rioters across the country. It would be a mess.
But that's what would happen. It wouldn't be us, man. I'm telling you.
I understand. You don't want me to. I agree with you that most black people would not do that. But most black people weren't rioting in South Central LA in the '91 Rodney King riots. Would be in every American blue city, nonstop until Obama was released or charges were dropped.
I understand how you believe, and I love your history that you know it well. But this time, and with that dude, man, he was 100% a trick, a hoax, a game. He ran game on us.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. And I've never been Democrat. Only Democrat I ever voted for was Air Washington, and that was in Chicago. But I've never voted Democrat.
Well, good for you. Good
but
for
the
you.
only ones you have out there is that Jersey jackass and that Lenny clown. But real brothers and sisters that are out here working and out here staying as conservative life, you wouldn't catch us out there. And mostly all those in the ghettos and all that. Most of them, they wouldn't be out there. The only ones they have is the ones that are paying, and that's it, man.
Yep. All right. Hey, listen, I appreciate the call. Good points. Okay. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Mike from Louisiana.
Hey, Mike. What's up?
Yeah, you talk about the fake MAGA earlier, and here's the deal. The fake MAGA are the same ones that are saying, I want handcuffs on people now, right now. When you know that everybody knows that there's more stuff that's going to come out from Tulsi Gabbard, and just go ahead and let Pam Bondi slowly build these cases.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
got there, get the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and make it a foregone conclusion almost that you're going to get some of these people in jail. You know, Loretta Lynch, Samantha Power, you know, those type of people, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, and that's how the Trump administration. Now, granted, if you're probably gonna have to have the courage to pull, you know, judge shopping like the Democrats do.
That's right. Yes. File in Florida, conservative court. Yeah, we got to do. I agree with that, Mike. We want to do some judge shopping. We don't want to end up in front of an Obama-appointed judge with charges on Clapper.
No.
Yeah, no.
And by the way, these judges that are doing this stuff right now, a lot of them were appointed by Obama.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these federal district court judges were appointed by Obama, and they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And they are participating in the coup.
That's right. That's right.
Know?
All right, Mike. Good to talk to you. Take care. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Brian. I'm calling from Michigan. I just wanted to call and say I appreciate all your hard work and dedication you put on your show. I've been watching you for over 4 years. I agree with you 100%. You have a great day, and you be safe out there in Florida. Everybody on YouTube, be safe and have a great weekend, and God bless from the state of Michigan.
All right. It's good to hear. All right. Now, if you'd like to call in and you're watching live, the number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. If you're watching on YouTube, the toll-free number to call in, which is toll-free no matter where you're listening or watching, is pinned in the live chat. We'll take a quick break and be right back. isn't just another tech trend. It's redefining how we work, how we live, how we make our decisions. In the book, Riding at the Crossroads, Generation X and the Ethical AI Revolution, author a technology executive with over 30 years of experience and founder of the Ethical AI Organization, delivers a clear, no-nonsense guide tailored for Gen X. Riding at the Crossroads breaks down what AI really is, how it affects your career, finances, and privacy, as well as why Generation X must take the lead. And every room tells a story. All right, we are back. My name is Brian Craig. If you're on hold, hang in there. President Trump yesterday, he was in a really good, he was in a great mood yesterday. There's a big story too I'm going to get to in a few minutes. I haven't even covered yet. But he was talking, this is on the lawn of the White House. He's waiting to board Marine One. And if you've ever been to D.C., the number of homeless people around it's insane. And President Trump was asked about the homeless out in front of the White House. Listen, this is hilarious. This was yesterday. You know, this we'll have them removed immediately. This is hilarious. So this is why we elected him, right? Is he not the best? No other president would say that. You know, this question is asked to make him, oh, that's a terrible thing. Let's find out about it. Let's get a government program going. Not President Trump. Notice how Trump wanted to know exactly where they were, so when he goes over to the helicopter, he can tell them to run him off. Oh, that is hilarious. I love it. Oh, man. I went to Starbucks before the podcast, and, Starbucks has a policy that I thought they ended, but they let homeless people camp out. And they used to give them, they've stopped a policy that was supposed to run them off, and it hasn't worked, at least not here. They used to give free water to anyone. Now you have to make a purchase to get the free water from Starbucks. And so homeless people would go there. And there's two homeless people basically living at the Starbucks that I went to this morning. There was one guy, I used to live stream on the weekends on YouTube in front of a Starbucks. And I had a couple, I had to stop doing it because people who were creepy, some of them were creepy, I'll tell you. Not all of them, but some of them were. People that would watch me on YouTube figured out what Starbucks I was live streaming from and would come and show up. And they would never make their presence known until I stopped live streaming, so I had to stop doing that. But there was one in particular where I did have, on one live stream, I was confronted by a crazy person on the stream once there, and that was pretty bad. But they had a homeless guy there who basically lived on the front porch tables out in front of Starbucks where people go and have their lattes and eat their fancy foods. And he had a CPAP machine, this homeless guy, plugged into the Starbucks outdoor wall socket. And he would sleep there all night on his CPAP in front of the place, which was just bizarre. Anyway, I love this. Where are they? Okay, let me send my guys to get them. I love, that is hilarious. All right, let's take some calls. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Dylan from Palmdale, California.
All right, Dylan, what's on your mind?
Yeah, Brian, I've been watching for the last 20 minutes or so I'm not too familiar with the program. But I'm in utter disagreement with everything that I've heard so far. I don't quite understand, and maybe you can help me understand it. What is something a positive, forward-looking vision from Trump or anyone who supports Trump? What does that even look like? Because so far I can't tell.
Well, there was actually, what is Trump doing that's positive right now? Is that what what are you asking me? That was a very vague.
So Trump is able to accomplish everything. How are the lives of Americans improved in?
Okay. How are Americans' lives improved in all kinds of ways? But I'll give you something very specific that I just saw this morning, and this was announced by Kash Patel. He's the director of the FBI. Was announced yesterday.
Right.
President Trump's administration has just shut down the top 4 dark web child sex abuse sites. That's and they arrested 19 people. So that's a pretty good thing, isn't it?
I'm sorry. I don't know where you stand on this.
No, hold on a second. You asked me how is he making America's lives better? If these are American, he shut down the top 4 dark web sex predator sites where American kids are being abused. You're not going to say, well, that's a good thing. You can't say that's a good thing.
Currently imprisoned convicted sex offender.
Well, wait, excuse me. You can't say to yourself that's a good thing? Can you say that's a good thing that Trump did?
It is.
Yes, sir. Yeah. The day before. I'll give you another thing that he's done. No, you asked me.
We need to address this.
Okay.
We need to address this. Okay. Here's the thing. We can say that we've shut down dark websites, and that's great. I love that coming from Kash Patel, somebody who vehemently opposed the dismissal of this Epstein issue right now. However, we currently have Trump's former personal attorney, who is now interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell, looking for a pardon. And you're saying that this is a positive thing that Trump is doing. Trump is not doing this.
See, you know, but listen, you're a very you're liberal. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You're a liberal Democrat, but you're very smart. Okay, you are, and I'm not being condescending. You're an intelligent guy. Okay, you're not like a lot of these trolls that I talk to. Okay, so let's talk about this Maxwell pardon thing. Okay, because the deputy attorney general that met with her yesterday was President Trump's lawyer in one of his cases in New York, and I forgot his name offhand. He's the guy who's got a mean face. I would not want, you know what I mean? I can't remember his name offhand. Okay, this dangling a pardon. You're smart enough to know. Why do you think they did that? Dangled a pardon. That's never going to happen, by the way. Why were they dangling a pardon?
Why were they, or why are they currently?
Yeah, Todd Blanche, by the way. Somebody in the chat, Todd Blanche. Why do you, there's this, let's say that Todd Blanche, the deputy attorney general, when he met with her, was teasing the idea of a pardon. Why would he do that?
I see where you're going with this.
Why? No, tell me. Why? You're smart. Why?
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'll do that right now. Ostensibly, the idea is dangling this pardon in front of Ghislaine Maxwell is going to tease out this list of
Yes, and they went through 108. Yes, so President Trump is not going to pardon her, but they dangled the idea to get her to talk. Hold on a second.
Are you willing to stand by that? He will not pardon.
Well, I can't predict the future. I would think probably not, but I can't. I'm not a psychic.
That's your boy.
I don't see him doing it. But hold on, slow down a second here. I don't see him doing that. When police interrogate someone, which is kind of what happened, right? It is commonplace and also very legal for law enforcement, both local and federal, to lie to suspects when they're questioning them and promising everything. I remember, I know this is a movie, but everybody will know this because everybody's seen the movie, The Silence of the Lambs. They were trying to get Lecter to give them some information to find Buffalo Bill. Jodie Foster goes and says, okay, we're going to send you to this island prison for a year, one day, a weekend, a year, and all this stuff. So they're not, Todd Blanche dangled a pardon with her just so she'd give him some intel. They're not going to pardon her. Come on.
Okay. I hope that you're right. I mean, we can obviously all agree on this, that would be horrible. However, if this happens, I will be back here, and I'll tell you what else. Here's just it. Dangling a pardon, and all of what you're talking about, this is this tactic of potentially relieving someone of some guilt or their sentencing. It makes total sense. However, when you're doing it in the public eye like this reads so shadily, and I don't really know how you can square this attempt to tease this all out when Trump was basically trying to throw all of this.
Yeah, but see, when you listen, when you first hold on a second, when you called in, you wanted to know some good things that Trump has done. I'll tell you another thing. The big beautiful bill that he passed, okay? And you're out in California. I just saw a story this morning. It's on my X, okay? You guys can find it on my X. Brian Craig Show on X. A whole bunch of Planned Parenthood clinics are shutting down in California because of the big beautiful bill cut Planned Parenthood funding. How many children are going to be born because of that? That's a great thing. The birth of children, that's a good thing, and we're gonna have more children being born now because of that.
So what about the women who are refused?
Well, hold on a second. Let me tell you. My daughter just moved back. Excuse me, slow down. I want to talk about this. So these Planned Parenthood clinics that are shutting down in California because of the big beautiful bill funding. There were a few. I have the article. I can't remember how many, but it was several. My daughter just moved back to Florida from Los Angeles. She lived in LA for 3 years. And the last time I was out there, if you on my YouTube channel, if you go and look for my vlog on my recent California trip, you'll see this. My daughter's driving me through LA, and I saw a bunch of pro-life people protesting on the street for the right for children to be born. And I said, pull over. I got to go talk to these people. And I put my MAGA hat, I wore my MAGA hat on. So I put my MAGA hat on and I went up to them and interviewed them. They were in front of a Planned Parenthood clinic. And I talked to them, and really I thought the idea that even though Roe v. Wade had been overturned by the president, that Planned Parenthood in California would be shutting down was like impossible. Now it's happened. And that was just a couple months ago. I was out in LA in front of that Planned Parenthood clinic. That's a good thing, man. Babies will be born because of that.
Okay, we can agree though that Planned Parenthood provides more services than.
Now, please, that's where the money is. The other stuff is just to get you in the door. It's like if you see an auto loan that has all these deals, 0% financing where they talk really fast. They're called lost leaders. They put a lot of things out there to get you in the door. What information? What information? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Where do I get this information from? I'll tell you what. You ask a.
Are you
Can you not use profanity?
Please.
Can you not use Have you heard me use the F word?
I was trying not.
Where did I get this information? I'm going to tell you where I got the information. I'm so glad you asked.
There are sales people in there? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
They're trying to
Okay.
entice you?
During the week, yeah, I'll tell you. I'm going to. Yeah, listen. I'm going to tell you. And I will say this, and then I'm going to get very specific. I am 54 years old. Okay. I have been a broadcaster. I have been a broadcaster on the air since I was 19 years old, doing a show just like this, right? I've been on the radio since I was 19, and I've covered all these issues over the years. So I've got a lot of experience of meeting people and interacting with people, sometimes Planned Parenthood people. During the week, I co-host the Steve Kane Radio Show. Steve Kane, it's the Steve Kane Show, the longest running radio show in Florida. Steve, I'm getting, let's calm down, man. Steve was in a relationship with a woman. This was not before he was married to his current wife. And she was they called her a counselor. She was very liberal at the time, this woman. She was a counselor at a Planned Parenthood facility here in Florida. And her job was to get them to have abortions. And they don't call them salespeople, they call them counselors. Okay? And we would talk to her all the time about this. And she worked in a Planned Parenthood facility. She was disgusted by it and felt very guilty for taking part in that. They call them counselors, not salespeople. But yeah, they're salespeople.
Yeah, okay. So
You wanted to know how I know this, where I get my information. I gave you a very specific one.
I understand that you have an anecdote.
It's not an anecdote. It's not an anecdote. Okay, look up Lila Rose. Look up Lila Rose and her undercover Planned Parenthood series.
I can argue this in good faith, Brian. I promise you. I will take this at face value. But this, I will say, this is a mischaracterization of what someone did. You said they're a counselor. Is that right? And that,
yeah, they call her a counselor, not a salesperson. Yeah, but the
sure. Yeah. Well, look, counseling somebody through a traumatic event, like needing an abortion, right? Having to terminate your child's life.
Nobody has to do that.
You think that that's not a valuable service?
No, it's No, listen.
The termination of your child's life.
No. You don't go and get counseled by the people that are going to make the profit off of the abortion. They have a conflict.
They don't make commission, Brian.
They get paid. Yeah, sure. That's where the big money. Listen. Now you got to understand. The money is not in condoms and diaphragms. The big money is in the surgical procedure, which is the abortion. Listen, I got to run for a break, but you're a good caller, and call me again. Okay? It's not. No, it's nice to talk to a liberal who's got some brains. I talk to these trolls all the time, and you're a smart guy. You are. I'm serious. Misguided and wrong, but you know. All right. I'm going to take a break. If you'd like to call in, please do. Call us on hold. Stand by. My name's Brian Craig. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. If you're watching live on YouTube, the number is pinned in the live stream. We'll be right back. me a pain 6 times after that for a total of 7 months. We have listeners that travel literally from all over the United States. He is incredible. The laser treatment works on every type of pain I've ever heard of. Arthritis, which by the way, he heard me of arthritis in my hand. Bursitis, work and sports injury, strains and sprains, repetitive motion injury, post-surgical swelling, neck and back injuries, knee conditions, tonsillitis, sciatica, spinal stenosis, fibromyalgia, plantar fasciitis, which I can get incredibly painful, rotary tears, herniated disc, acute pain, chronic pain, and any type of pain you've ever heard of. Like meeting listeners all the time with new pains I've never heard of, and they're now living pain-free thanks to Dr. Appleton. Give him a call. Now remember, appointments are not necessary. Walk-ins are welcome, even on Saturdays. Give him a call and say bye-bye to your pain. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. It's Frank from West Palm. How you doing there?
All right,
Brian, you were absolutely correct. The Florida roofing was amazingly phenomenal. They just completed my roof last week, and the water roofing was superb in all ways imaginable for installing the new roof on my residence. Tom LaPorta meticulously spearheaded the entire project from inception through to the finalization of the assignment. Tom handled all the paperwork involved with city permits, inspectors, and my community HOA. He was always available, ensuring me that he had my back in all phases of the project. Additionally, Tom, Scott, and Dan, and the entire crew were very well organized with the plan, consistent with all policies and procedures, and craftsmanship was exemplary in all stages of design execution. Tom, Scott, and Dan maintained continual contact with me, the homeowner, asking if there were any questions I had or anything further I needed. LaPorta Roofing is, in every respect, a stellar, 5-star, AAA, family-owned company that is a reliable, people-minded roofing organization. These guys are spot on with regards to perfection, and they demand it. I remain mesmerized upon the completion of the job. My roof is a masterpiece. And one last thing before I forget, they were the least expensive quote that I received out of 4 quotes for roofing. I thank Tom LaPorta Roofing for all that they do.
Wow, Frank. Well, thank you so much. Tom LaPorta at LaPorta Roofing. Tell me what you do. Investigation in Florida and anywhere in between. Works with every type of structure, residential, commercial, municipal, and he works with every type of roofing that you're involved in. Don't forget, Tom LaPorta will never sell you a roof you do not need. Needs just a simple repair, he can do it. You can also handle the job from inside, whether it's a single-family home or an HOA that works with roofing. Give him a call. This number rings directly to Tom LaPorta's cell phone, 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. And online, roofing.com. Frank, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Brian. Have a wonderful day.
All right, we're back. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. Okay, I'll take some calls before I get back to the issues. I got some other things that we got to cover. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
New York.
Yep, speak up, New York.
I was just calling because just wanted to let you know it's a great and wonderful job that you do, even though I know that you do not believe what you say.
What have I?
You are very, very
What have I
effective at
said that
doing
you don't think I believe?
everything that you say. Because number one, okay, go back a week and a half ago, Pam Bondi should have been fired. Let you tell it. Should have fired Pam Bondi because of her misaction or whatever.
Well, we didn't know. Everyone was calling. Excuse me. Slow down for a second. Slow down. Hold on a second. This is not. This is your life. You're going to make an accusation against me, and I'm going to talk about it. So you said Pam Bondi. Everyone was saying that she should have been fired, And then,
You're your own person.
excuse
I'm not
me,
talking about
let me
everyone. I'm talking
finish.
about you.
Let me,
That's why I say
let
what
me,
you
all right,
do.
I got to put you on hold. On this program, we talk about the news as it is happening. Okay? We talk about the news as it is happening. And when you're talking about news as it's happening, there's something called developments. And as things come out, we learn more. So what we found out, which we didn't know, is that Pam Bondi has been working on something pretty big. And it's this case with Tulsi, and we're getting a big release on the Mar-a-Lago break-in. So when you're talking about the news, there are developments in the news that change things. And a real man can admit, hey, listen, there's something new. I was wrong about that. All right, take care. He's confused about that real man stuff. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Dave in Virginia.
Hey, Dave, what's up?
You know, I think that I really believe that Adam Schiff's going to go to jail because of
The mortgage fraud?
for being in the state. Yeah, for the state being in their state.
Yep.
I think if he would only let it go for a couple of years, they might have gave him probation. But since he went over a period of 10 years, I think he's going to go to prison for that.
Yeah, he very well could. And I'd be very supportive of that. He's a nasty guy. He is a creep. He's a creep.
Yes, he is. Yes.
I mean, he's
I think
really
all this
bad.
other will come out, but he will get immunity for the other, but it will come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate the call. Yeah, that looks like what they'll get Letitia. Yeah, you're on the air.
A real
No,
man.
it's one call per day. Okay. All right. So let me get to this. This was amazing. Now remember this at a Trump rally. This was at one of the Trump rallies for this campaign. Listen. Okay, now this is listen to this. That guy right there, the fired Space Force officer, he's now the number 2 guy at the Air Force. That's right. A former. This is in the military news, military.com. A former Space Force officer who was booted from the service after making unfounded, they say, allegations that Marxism was spreading throughout the military, has been confirmed by the Senate to be the Air Force's number 2 civilian. They were not unfounded. He was talking about all that woke crap that was going on under Biden's auto-pen administration. In a 52-46 party line vote on Thursday, the Senate approved former Lieutenant Colonel Matthew, I think it's Lohmeyer, might be his name. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. It's spelled weird. To become the Undersecretary of the United States Air Force. That guy. And I remember when he got booted from the Space Force, that was a big story. And promises made, promises kept by President Trump. That is so huge and so good and so insanely perfect. I mean, you know, what was going on with the United States military under the auto-pen administration was really scary stuff. It was really scary stuff. And it was scary for a whole bunch of reasons. But we were losing our military. And not only were we losing our military, it was going to be over. The military as we know it was going to be over. And because of all the woke stuff. I don't need to go through all the list. You guys know what they were doing. And this, the general that fired that former lieutenant colonel, and he lost his veterans benefits, he was dishonorably discharged and everything, he's still in the Air Force. And now, the guy he fired, he's his boss now. Isn't that something? So, President Trump really has cleaned up this wokeism in our military. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Why did Epstein go to Trump's wedding?
One call per day. One call per day. You notice, didn't I tell you this? A week ago today, I told you guys, I said, the liberals, their talking point answer to whatever you bring up is going to be, what about Epstein? This? What about Epstein that? Anytime they don't have an answer, it's going to be Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. But you know what? That's okay, because we know better. Now, I wanted to share this because this is a pretty important story in the scheme of it, and one of the biggest problems we have in this country. George Santos, former Republican congressman, surrendered to prison, 7 years in prison. This is in Breitbart. Former New York Rep. George Santos reported to federal prison on Friday to begin his 87-month prison sentence after he pled guilty to felony fraud charges on August 24th and was expelled from Congress in December 23. And he was lying to the Federal Elections Commission. He was using campaign money for all kinds of private things, including OnlyFans. And he should have been booted. And going to prison is the right thing. I mean, it's crazy. George Santos is going to prison, and we have all these people that were part of this coup, and they're free. But here's the thing. There's a big story going on right now. Let me see if I can pull this up. AOC. AOC has been doing all kinds of things, right? She went to that Tax the Rich Met Gala. She got free and discount tickets. She's been getting clothing from expensive designers, basically for free, and all of this. So why is it okay? And you look at people like Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer has been in government since he graduated law school. He was in New York State government for years, and he's been in the Senate for many, many years. And he's worth $80 million. We don't, without any private business sense. And we know the stock picks that Pelosi's husband has led. They're worth $250 million, and we know what goes on. George Santos is in prison right now as I'm speaking to you for one reason and one reason only, right? The reason George Santos is in prison and AOC is not for her crimes is because, well, she's a Democrat. That gives her some immunity. But George Santos is a Republican who really is viewed by a traitor as many different types of treason he's committed. He went up against the Kevin McCarthy establishment, Bush Republicans. The liberals don't like him because he's a gay Republican, so they view him as a traitor. But if all members of Congress were treated appropriately for their financial corruptions, like George Santos is in prison right now, that would be such a great thing to clean up the swamp. You know, if these people went to prison for their financial crimes, other than a random Republican here and there, could you imagine how much better our country would be? You know, someone I'm sure will be somebody in the live chat on YouTube said, "Well, Goldbar Menendez." Goldbar Menendez he did this before and got acquitted, if you remember, right? He was on trial for remember that doctor and there was all kinds of things about the trips to Costa Rica. The only reason he is in prison is because he got busted, went on trial, got away with it, and he couldn't stop his addiction, and he did it again. But Goldbar Menendez was taking bribes before and got busted and got away with it. And he's only in prison because it was high profile. He got away with it, then he did it again. So that's Democrats have immunity in so many things. It's beyond imagination. It really is, isn't it? And George Santos, he's on his way to prison because he is he's a Republican. And AOC, you know, these members of Congress, like AOC is a millionairess now. How did she become a millionairess? She was a bartender. Now she's a millionaire. A millionairess, right? Because she's female. The $80 million with Schumer and all the rest. They're all crooks. And Santos is doing 7 years because he was, you know, paid for OnlyFans and some other things that he shouldn't have been paying for. But I mean, I know it's a double standard, but that's the kind of thing we need to take care of. Now, if you'd like to support my channel and all my content, which includes my YouTube channel, everything I do, my podcast and everything, become a Patreon supporter. If you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to commercial-free editions of all of my podcast episodes. You get access to a whole bunch of things that nobody else gets access to, including videos and other content that my wife, Kathy, and I both post to Patreon that no one else has access to, on top of the commercial-free editions of all the podcast episodes. And if you're a top Patreon supporter, you get a live on-air thank you shout-out on every episode of the podcast, and you get your name up on screen on YouTube when I do this. The names you'll hear now are my top Patreon supporters. I want to thank SFjr, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, Tina, David, Laura, Rob, Wes, Sue, and Janice. These are my top Patreon supporters. Again, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of the episode on whatever platform you're listening on. And the direct website address is patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow. That's patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow. Again, the Brian Craig Show podcast is available on all podcast platforms. Just search for The Brian Craig Show. And if you want to catch the show live and call in, follow me on YouTube at Brian Craig Show. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is where MAGA comes to talk. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.